So I knew this would happen. I brought the Love up here to put it on the chassis table to start on the cage, and Mike took one look at it and was like, dude, you're not gonna have room for your legs. Kyle, the guy who's helping me, who's super cool, he doesn't really like to be on camera a ton, but they both agree, and I agree, the motor needs to go on the back. I had thought about this for a while and wanted to do a Porsche transaxle, and just kept talking myself out of it because it's kind of expensive. But I kind of said screw it, and we're going center seat and with the Porsche transaxle in the rear. So I gotta end up cutting a lot of this out. Yeah, this thing is gonna be even crazier than I thought. So this video was supposed to be building the cage, but now it's more or less building the chassis. Suspension arms off. Now it is time to cut somewhere. But first build a jig or fixture to keep all of these same mounting holes so that I can continue to use like all the Ride Tech arms and stuff.
Brought the Love truck over to the shop for a little bit of help, and we really encouraged him to see if he actually fit in the Love truck, which he didn't, which might be a problem. So we kind of came up with some ideas, and ultimately we all decided that a Porsche transaxle and a rear mounted LS is the way to go. It only makes sense. So to do that, this ugly Camaro cradle was going to interfere with our plans, so it had to go. So what we got going on here is Cole went through, they made a fixture. All these are the pickup points for the Camaro subframe. They're all welded to the table, so now he can mock up the engine and transmission. We know where the pickup points need to go, and we can kind of design him a one-of-a-kind tubular custom frame for his radical little truck. The cool part is, once we do the rear mounted engine and transaxle, we're gonna wanna have a really cool looking tubular structure for the rear frame, and I'm super looking forward to it. There's a couple little bits and bobs we gotta figure out, but this is the fun. You just cut shit up, throw it away, send it, and see what happens. So Cole is actually sweating bullets, and he's kind of had a few panic attacks today, but we're calming him down. I think he'll be all right.
So sadly, after we got this whole fixture or all this jig made up, realized that the truck is off about a half an inch, and the pickup points were off a little bit too. So kind of gonna start over. I messed up. You know, there's nothing I can do about it. So redrawing the center line on the whole table. Then I'm gonna recenter the truck, take all of these off, clean up the table, then put the IRS cradle back on and remeasure all the pickup points to make sure that they're square. So hopefully, like right now, I can get this all done. You know, hopefully it won't take too long to cut all these off, clean them up, and by the end of the day, I want to have the jig remade up. so where I can start doing the lower frame rails, which will also be out of 2x3 box tubing, but will obviously just run lower and back. So I'll show you guys this. So I got all of the bars that we made yesterday for the fixture off, and now I'm going to grind where the cradle met the actual main frame rail down just a little bit so that it has a little bit of wiggle room. Got the truck all centered up. Now just have to put the cradle up, probably on scissor jacks or something just to hold it up there, and center it, and then re-mark where all of the fixture bars go. So I just got to the shop, and today I'm remaking the fixture for all of the pickup points for the rear cradle, or for the rear arms. So I'm going through measuring each of the distances in between, you know, all of the pickup points, and making these little, you know, pieces of round tube to then basically do what I did before with, you know, making it towards the fixture that, you know, mounts to the table to where I know where all the pickup points are. So I'm just going to be cutting away. So I got all of the fixture up. I just have to finish weld them. I think I'm going to have Kyle do that later because he is a much better welder. But so the fixture is all made. Now I can, after he welds it, can take the cradle back off and mock up that block and the transaxle, see where my frame rails will need to end up going, and also hang a bedside to see how far back the frame needs to go. So the fixture is all welded up, and the cradle has been taken back off for the second time, and I have the transaxle sitting about where it needs to be once it is in the truck. So yeah, now I'm gonna set the block up there, see how much room is actually going to be back here. I mean, after I figure out how far up the engine needs to go and all that, I'll probably end up cutting these right here, and then starting the 2x3 structure that will go back somehow. I'm not sure yet, but it's coming along. So I just got the block in, you know, just kind of mocked up, and you can see that obviously, you know, this is nowhere near the crankshaft center line, but this actually has to get flipped over. So when it gets flipped over, it'll go down about 3.5 inches, which will, probably a little bit more, which will put it right in line with the center line of the crankshaft. But just looking at it, geez, it looks pretty serious. So since I got the block and transaxle mocked up, I'm gonna hang the bedside, basically just take square tube and tack it to the bed rail, tack it to the table just to hold it up in space about where it needs to be. And then I think after that I'm gonna call it a night, come back tomorrow, work on it all day, start to figure out how I'm gonna do the back of the chassis, which will take, you know, I'll need to talk to Mike about that quite a bit, but making good headway. You know, I'm happy about it. So I got the bedside hung, and it's finally looking like a truck, which is really cool. So yeah, you can now see that it just will be a good size. I mean, the wheelbase is only 102.5, but you know, the bed does stick out pretty far behind the rear wheels, but I don't really want to like bother or trim it or anything. So, and it'll look good with a diffuser coming up right here, and I'm liking it. It's turning out really cool.
So apparently Cole doesn't like to do his own videos anymore, and he wants me to do them for him.
I just want you to explain like how this is actually working.
So we're gonna make just 2 straight rails that go along the sides that kind of tie into the seat rails, and then they'll also tie up into the lower control arm pickup points, because the lower control arms are where a majority of the stress goes through. So anytime we're doing these, we want to make sure we got really good load paths on the lower control arms and on the shock mounts, because they can see super high stress loads. So that's what we're doing now. We kind of got the motor and trans sitting in here, even though Cole is kind of a knucklehead and has the input shaft lined up with the cam instead of the crank.
It's because the whole transaxle. It's because the whole transaxle has to get flipped over, and so it'll get moved down.
Did you actually do the actual measurements to know where it's going to be, or did you just guess?
Kind of. No, I measured it, and it's like 3.5 inches off. So, and that's about 3.5 inches off.
Option number 2.
Did you use your penis to measure it?
No, I used Kyle's.
Nope, not mine.
So anyways, the motor and trans are in there. We're kind of working through the chassis design and figuring out where all the tubes need to lay. We got the bedside on here, so we know like where the back of the truck is going to be, because we want to be able to support the back of the truck and the bedsides as well. And we also want to make sure that we've got as much of an uphill slope as we can get in the back of the truck, because we're planning on doing a really big diffuser and kind of a tunnel concept in the future, and we need to have room for that. So we're trying to keep all this stuff compact and keep it out of the way of the aero, because it's a time attack truck, don't you know? So that's it for now.
So the new frame rails for the back are cut and tacked on. Just went to here because from here it'll start to taper up at about 12 degrees, but they're looking good. And then off of this is how I'll make the round tube structure with tabs going out to all these pickup points. So last night got the main rails for the rear made, and these, like I was saying, go up at a 12-degree angle to allow the aero to start to come up. And also got the old rails that came out to like right here, cut off, plated. Now I'm gonna run 2x2 to go from here all the way to probably back here somewhere. That's even with the bottom, so that I have a mounting surface for the floor, or for the, just for the under tray or the belly. But it's looking good. And then where these connect right here on the other side of this cross member, about right here, it'll continue to run forward and pick up underneath the suspension pickup points for the front suspension, and then it'll have a bar running from here to that side, and so all the load paths, like Mike was saying, will be front to back and all good. So, and then today I'm also going to start on building or making a couple of brackets or templates for brackets that hold on these suspension mounting points to here, and probably these to that other bar. And then for these, or this will also have to get notched because the lower control arm sits and pivots right here. So I didn't think about that, but it'll probably get notched. And then the round tube structure that'll probably come up and over somehow will hit here. So then, where it's weak in there, we'll have strength up in that bar. And then the cage will come and tie down into that structure. But it's coming along, so it's looking good. So I got these bars all made up, so they're gonna connect about like that. Got them for both sides, and then now I can start making templates for brackets out of ram board that'll go like right here. Once this is tacked in, go off of it like that, and then probably for back here. But I think I'm gonna cut these off and do it out of 2x2 like that, because they'll end up actually having to come out to like here where the back of the bed is. So I'm gonna start on that. So I got these rails just tacked in and they're sitting perfectly flush with the bottom of this rail and the bottom of the cross member. So now I'm ready to start making some templates to make suspension mounts for these two and probably this one, but this will still, I think I'm gonna cut this off, like I said, do 2-inch square off of the back of there, but I'll have to notch it so that the lower control arm can still pivot down. So I'll have to measure that out to see how far down I have to notch, but I'm really enjoying, you know, how it's coming together. And I mean, it's coming together pretty quick, so it's starting to look really cool. So I'm actually going to wait on making templates for the suspension mount. So I'm moving one to the back, and I'm gonna plate these. I just cut and ground down these plates to the back here and then I'll go ahead and cut this 2x2 at a 6-degree angle on one end to continue the 12-degree up, and probably bring it out to, you know, about right here, just so it has a good place for the wing to mount off of and the rear diffuser. So I got these bars cut up for the rear. I made these and 6 so that it'll continue to go for the 12-degree angle, and I cut these opposite but at 12 so that it's flat at the back, so that's something I can mount the tailgate off of or something else. So now, or tonight, Kyle is gonna bend up the main hoop, because then after I get these all tacked on, I can start the tube structure that'll run up, straight forward, and then out and connect at the main hoop on each side, and then the down bars will connect to those. So he's gonna get the main hoop all bent up and sat in. Right now, I'm trying to figure out the angle of all of this in here to be able to run a bar straight across to make all of this stronger and a lot prettier. So I have it all marked up over here. I'm just gonna start cutting and see if it fits up. So I'm super excited for right now because Kyle is actually about to start bending up the main hoop for the cage. So I'm gonna cut the section that he'll need, just figuring out angles and stuff. So I'm really excited for this. It'll actually start looking like a race truck, even though I don't know if that looks like a race truck or not yet, but it should be cool, because then we can start on the bars that will go forward and diagonal like I was talking about earlier. So what are you doing right now?
Not talking on camera. No, I'm figuring out exactly where all the bend lines will be and at what degrees I have to bend them at.
So you're marking where the bend will actually start?
Yeah, start and finish.
Okay. See, I watched a bunch of videos on YouTube about how to bend up a cage because I thought I was going to do this, and I was like, I'm going to run all of the roll cage tubing that I have. And so luckily I have Kyle, and Kyle has done this quite a bit, so he knows what he's doing. So it's cool to, you know, watch and take in what he's doing so that I can actually learn, so that if I have to build a cage in the future.
Are you done?
Come back here, show
Oh, you think I'm some kind of professional videographer here? Let's Cole pretending to or acting like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, that's good. Good enough for the girls Cole brings home.
Wow, yeah.
You better put that on there. Okay, I'm going home.
And cut.
So I got this rear extension that'll go to the back of the truck all made, and now you can see I'm marking out the part of the back of the cab that I'm going to cut off so that the bars that'll start back here run up, come along here, that'll pick up these two upper suspension points, run, then bend out and go diagonal following that one to about here. I need to be able to lift the cab up to get to the tops of those so Kyle can weld the tops of the main hoop and all that, and also just for the engine. So, and I'll probably be able to just from there build a panel that comes in and down to cover the whole engine and everything else, just so it's sunk up more. So I'm gonna do that real quick.